lecture, we are going to continue our discussion on June 2015 question papers linear algebra questions. In the previous videos, we have covered the part B questions, and in this video, we are going to make the discussion on part C questions. The first question is, we are given with a 3 by 3 matrix with integer entries. What is the matrix? That is A, B, C, 0, A, D and 0, 0, A. So we are given an upper triangular matrix with all the entries are integers. Okay. Then which of the following is true? Okay. It is given. So from this matrix you can very well see that the characteristic polynomial of this matrix is x minus a to the power 3. Okay. It is easy to check that the characteristic polynomial of this matrix is this, with which what can we write? By Cayley-Hamilton theorem we know that, okay, by Cayley-Hamilton theorem we can write Ca of A is, that is A minus A times of I whole cube equals 0. So with which what can you deduce? You can very well deduce A cube minus 3a squared plus 3a squared a minus a cube I equals 0. So from this, if you write what is the identity matrix, it is 1 upon a cube times of a cube minus 3a squared plus 3a squared a. So from this, what can you say? If you multiply a inverse on both sides, you would get 1 upon a cube a square minus 3a plus 3a square multiplied with the identity matrix. So this is what we are going to get. So what is the first option? It is given that if a is non-zero. Here this is possible. This division by a cube is possible only when a is non-zero. Okay. So when a is non-zero, that is a polynomial in Q of x. We will have to identify a polynomial in Q of x such that this polynomial of A is inverse of A. So this is given in the option 1. You can very well choose your polynomial of x to be 1 upon a cube times of x squared minus 3ax plus 3a squared. If you choose this is your polynomial, then of course P of A, okay, P of A is the inverse of A. So option 1 is true. Right? Next, in the second option, it is given that for any polynomial that we take from z of x, we get Q of A to be equal to some matrix that is given. Okay. Let us choose Q of x to be equal to x squared. Okay. Now let us check what is Q of A. That is a squared. When you multiply this one with this one, okay, so the first row we are going to get a squared, and the second entry, okay, this row multiplied with this thing, so we are going to get 2ab. Okay, as of now I don't consider about the rest of the elements, only this I am considering. This is not equal to Q of B. So option 2 is false. Right? The third one, if a to the power n is 0 for some positive integer n. Okay, so there we will have to make use of a fact that maximum order of nilpotency is the order of a matrix. Which means if you have a matrix of order n by n, then the maximum order of nilpotency will be n. Which means, suppose you have a matrix of order n and let it be nilpotent. Nilpotent means there exists some smallest positive integer such that a to the power k is 0. That k cannot exceed n. Maximum value of k is n. So if for some k less than or equal to n, if a power k is 0, then of course a to the power n is 0, and that is given in option 3. Therefore option 3 is also right answer. Okay. Option 4, we are asked to check A commutes with every matrix of this form. So we have our A ABC, 0 AD and 0 0 A, and this is commuting with some matrix of the form A prime 0 C prime 0. Okay, this we can very well check by just by doing the matrix multiplication. The first entry is A prime, and second we would get B A prime, and in the third we would get A C prime plus C A prime. Okay, and here this is 0, and this is again A prime, and this is D A prime, and this is going to be 0 0 A prime. In a similar way, we can check A prime, and these two entries are 0. That is evident. And this is A prime B, and this is A prime C plus C prime A, and this is again A prime, this is 0, and again this is A prime, and this would give us B A prime. Right? So yeah, only this is different. Am I right? So option D cannot be true in this case. Right? Suppose instead of D, if we have B in this place as well. Okay? In the question itself, if we have B in this place as well, then these two are true. Here, if you can very well check, just a minute. B A prime, it's right. When you do this with, okay, here. Second with, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, we are getting D A prime. So these two are equal. Hence, every matrix of this form. Every matrix of this form commutes with the matrices of this form. Okay. And in group theory, you may take it as a simple exercise in group theory. Consider this as a group. Okay. Try to identify the center of a group. You will get matrices of this form to be your center of a group. Okay. The next question, it is given that S is a 3 by 3 real matrix satisfying certain condition. Okay. S is going to consist of matrices of order 3 by 3 such that A transpose A is 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Okay. Then some statements regarding this S is given, and we will have to check which of them are true. Okay. The first one, it is given that A is the set L, S contains a nilpotent matrix. Okay. They are not saying S is the set which consists of only the nilpotent matrix. S is subset which consists of the matrices satisfying this condition. In the set, some nilpotent matrices are present in it. Okay. First of all, let us do something. Okay. Let A be a member of S. Okay. And let X is some element in kernel of A. So what do we mean by kernel of A? We can treat this A as a mapping from R3 to R3. Okay. So the kernel of A means it is the entries. Okay. It is the set of entries in R3 such that AX is 0. If I take X is a member of kernel of A, then what happens? Then my AX is 0. Okay. Now, no matter what, I am multiplying A transpose with this. Okay. So, let me just multiply A transpose with this. So, this tells me that this X is a member of kernel of A transpose A also. Okay. If we know that A transpose A is again a 3 by 3 matrix, so this thing can also be treated as a mapping from R3 to R3, and any x satisfying this condition will be in the kernel. Okay, so we have got this. Now on the other hand, let us consider x is in the kernel of A transpose A. This tells us A transpose AX equals 0. Okay. Now what I am going to do is that I cannot take an inverse of this A transpose and multiply it, because there is no guarantee that the inverse of A transpose exists. It may not exist also. So what I can do is that I can just simply multiply the transpose of this X on both the sides, so that this is happening to be true. So this becomes what? AX whole transpose AX equals 0. Okay, X transpose X is 0 if and only if X is 0. So using this fact, we can very well deduce AX is 0. So this tells us X is a member of kernel of A. So proving these two things, what do we get? We get kernel of A is same as that of kernel of A transpose A. Okay, so with which what can we decide? So if these two kernels are equal, by rank nullity theorem, what? So from this what can we deduce? What is the kernel of A? So all those stuff, right? So with which we can deduce nullity of A is same as that of nullity of A transpose A. What is nullity of A transpose A? So it has only one independent column or one independent row. So the nullity is 2 here. Okay, therefore the nullity of A is also 2. Right? If the nullity is 2, with which what can we say? Simply just because, and using this and rank nullity theorem, we get rank of A is same as that of rank of A transpose A. Okay, if the nullity is true, then the rank is 1. So rank of A is 1. So it is not the full rank, that is rank is equal to 3. Therefore, this matrix is a nilpotent matrix. So this can contain nilpotent, rank of A is same as that of rank of this thing is that. Okay, fine. So with which what can we conclude? This set consists of matrices of rank 1. Okay, matrices of rank 1 are present in this set. Okay, that is the option 2. So now we have verified the option 2, that this matrix consists of rank of matrices 1, and hence the option 3 is wrong. Okay, now coming to the first question, if we are able to identify some matrix that satisfies this condition and is being nilpotent. Okay, let us try it out. 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Let this be our A, and A transpose B 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. Therefore, A transpose A would be what? 1, and the rest zeros. Clearly, this is a nilpotent matrix. So, we are able to identify one such matrix. You can have 1 here. So, therefore, the transpose will have 1 here, and when you multiply, that is going to be there. You may ask me a question, what if I choose 1 in the first question? Yes, it is very well possible, but that is not a nilpotent matrix. They are not asking, the statement does not claim that all nilpotent matrices are present in this set. The statement just claims that there is a nilpotent matrix, which means at least one nilpotent matrix is present in the set S. Yes, we are able to identify one such matrix, and that is present in S. So option 1 is true. Now it is left to check the option 4. That claims what? This set contains a non-zero skew-symmetric matrix. Okay, we know that non-zero skew-symmetric matrix will have a complex eigenvalue. If that is so, it will occur in pair. Okay, if it occurs in pair, then for each eigenvector we are able to, each eigenvalue we are able to identify one eigenvector. So that will contribute diagonalization thing, and that we are able to identify two eigenvectors which are linearly independent, hence the rank has to be at least 2, but here the rank is 1. Okay, so the point that I said is every non-zero skew symmetric matrix has rank at least 2. Okay, this is the point. Here the rank is only 1, so it cannot be true. So option 4 is also false. In the next problem, it is given that we have 4 non-zero vector spaces and 3 linear transformations are defined, which are phi1 which is defined from v1 to v2, and phi2 which is defined from v2 to v3, and phi3 which is defined from v3 to v4. And we are given few more informations about these transformations, that is kernel of phi1 is z0 and range of phi1 is kernel of phi2 and range of phi2 is kernel of phi3 and range of phi3 is the entire v4, with which they have given few options regarding the dimensions. Okay, here it is given that kernel of phi1 is 0, which means nullity of phi1 is 0. By rank nullity theorem, what do we get? Rank of phi1 plus nullity of phi1 is dimension of v1. So this is 0. This tells us that rank of phi1 is dimension of v1. Okay. Next, range of phi1 is kernel of phi2. Okay. So with which what can we write? Range is rank of range of phi1 means that is okay, with which dimension of range of phi1 is dimension of kernel of phi2. So this is nothing but the rank of phi1, which is nullity of phi2. Okay, rank of phi1 and nullity of phi2 is same. And by rank nullity theorem, what do we have? Rank of phi2 plus nullity of phi2 is dimension of v2. Okay, we know that rank of v1 is dimension of v1, that is the nullity. So from this what we get is rank of phi2 plus dimension of v1 equals dimension of v2. Okay, now using the second one, using the third one, here from this the thing that we are going to get is rank of phi2 is nullity of phi3. Okay, so we shall apply this thing to phi3. Rank of phi3 plus nullity of phi3 is dimension of v3. Okay, and here what do we have? Rank of phi2, that is dimension of v2 minus dimension of v1 plus, for nullity only we substituted, right? Yeah, plus rank of phi3 equals dimension of v3. Okay, what is rank of phi3? It is given that range of phi3 is entire v4. So from this what we get is rank of phi3 is dimension of v4. So if we just substitute it here, dimension of v2 minus dimension of v1 plus dimension of v4 equals dimension of v3. If we just bring it this side, what we are going to have is minus dimension of v1 plus dimension of v2 minus dimension of v3 plus dimension of V4 is 0. So symbolically writing, this is summation I runs from 1 to 4 minus I to the power, minus 1 to the power I dimension of Vi, which is 0. So that is the that is the first option, and that is correct. Okay. Looking at the second option, from this you can write dimension of V2 minus dimension of V3 plus dimension of V4 is dimension of V1. Dimension is of course a positive quantity provided your vector space is a non-zero one. If your vector space is a zero vector space, then the dimension is 0. In the question it is clearly given that we have considered 4 non-zero vector spaces. It is not said that all are different, but they are non-zero. Okay, so the dimension is positive. Here if you just write it in a notation form, it is summation I runs from 2 to 4 minus 1 to the power I, dimension of Vi is positive, and that is the second option, hence it is right. Just these ideologies, if you check the third and fourth option, they both are false. Right? Next, the next question tells you that S is given a linear transformation which is defined from Rn to Rn, which is defined by S of V equals alpha times of V, where this alpha is a non-zero fixed scalar. Okay, and another linear transformation is given, that is from Rn to Rn. Okay, how they have defined this transformation is not given, that is the explicit definition of the mapping is not given, but some other information related to this T is given, that is it is a transformation such that it has a basis which is a set of linearly independent eigenvectors. That is very important. Okay, this collection of vectors is a linearly independent eigenvectors of this transformation. Look at here, we have n different linearly independent vectors, and this is defined from Rn to Rn, which means it has full n independent linear vectors. Okay, so with which we are asked about like we have 4 options and we will have to examine these 4 options. First, let us come here. If these are eigenvectors, for each vector we can identify a corresponding eigenvalue associated with that vector. So there exists lambda I in R such that TVI is lambda I Vi. Okay, so with respect to and I runs from 1 to n, and if you write a matrix of this T with respect to these things, yes, of course you will get a diagonal matrix. So the matrix of T with respect to the basis B is a diagonal one. So I think that is the option 1. Okay, you have this one, right? So for everything you are going to, since these are eigenvectors, this will satisfy this property. Just put it in a matrix form and this is what you are going to get. Right? First option is done. Now we will have to check the second option, that is the matrix of T minus S with respect to this basis. Okay, let us consider T minus S with respect to this basis. This is what? T of Vi minus S of Vi. Okay, and T of Vi would be alpha Vi minus T of Vi is lambda I Vi and this is alpha Vi. So this is lambda I minus alpha Vi. Okay, if you try to write the matrix with respect to this B, lambda 1 minus alpha 0 0, then lambda 2 minus alpha, in this way you would get lambda n minus alpha. Again for this we are getting a diagonal matrix, right? Option 3 says that matrix of T with respect to B is not necessarily diagonal. No, we are getting it to be diagonal. Okay, and matrix of T with respect to B is diagonal, but the matrix of T minus S with respect to B is not diagonal. No, we get both are diagonal. Hence, option 1 and 2 are true. Thank you.